Sam had been driving for hours, and his hand of the wheel were starting to shake from tiredness. The road stretched ahead like an endless black ribbon, with only a few streetlights flickering like random stars. The radio crackled, switching from one old song to another, and the soft light from the dashboard lit up a face that hardly recognized itself, exhausted and a little lost. The fuel gauge showed he was running low. It was hard to tell how far it was to the next town. The night was completely dark, and then, on the horizon, he saw a faint light, thin, yellow, like a lamp on an old porch. 5 minutes later, he noticed a small building with a nearly faded neon sign reading "Open," flickering as if unsure of its own presence. Cobwebs stretched across the windows, and the air smelled of gasoline and old wood. Sam stopped. His body was tense and tired, and a slight unease stirred inside him. He stepped out of the cabin and felt the night chill bathe at his hand. Inside a man stood, about 60 years old, gray hair poking from under his cap. He sat at the counter, looking at Sam. "Good evening. Is the station open?" Sam asked, trying to sound confident, though a strange shiver ran through him. "For you, yes," the man replied, his voice quiet but calm, as if time itself had paused in that moment. "Pump number 3. Sam slowly walked over and inserted the nozzle into the tank. The clicking of the meter sounded unusually loud in the silence. Then he returned to the counter to pay, but the man just smiled. "Later. Wait a few minutes until the car arrives." "What car?" "I just need to refuel and get going," Sam frowned. "Just wait." Something in the man's voice was both calming and unnerving at the same time. Sam went back to the cabin, dropped his shoulders, and looked at the dashboard. Time seemed to stop. 3:07. The minute he had pulled into the station. And it felt like the night wasn't going to move forward. The sounds of the road, which a moment ago felt familiar, now seemed distant and strange. Only a faint crack under his feet reminded him he was still there. Sam took a deep breath, trying to calm his pulse. The car the man mentioned hadn't arrived yet, but the question, what car, kept him on edge. Sam sat in the cabin, still gripping the wheel, his eyes wandering over the dark road outside the window. The night was so thick it felt endless, and only the light from the gas station cut through the darkness, blurring the edge of the asphalt and roadside. He tried to focus on simple things: the rhythm of the engine, the smell of gasoline, the faint rustle of paperbacks in the cabin. But his thoughts kept coming back to one question: what car, and why was he supposed to wait for it? It felt like time moved differently here. He looked at the dashboard clock, still the same time, 3:07. And although he knew time was passing, it was as if the whole world had forgotten this stretch of road. Sam tried to distract himself, turning on the radio, but it only hissed quietly. No signal. Finally, he decided to approach the counter again. The man in the gray shirt was still in his seat, calm and almost motionless. "When is that car coming?" Sam asked, trying to hide his anxiety. "Don't rush," the clerk replied. "It was arrived on time, but not always the way you expect." Sam leaned in slightly, trying to read the man's eyes. There was something quiet there that made him feel both wonder and a small fear at the same time, something without a logical explanation. He returned to the truck and sat down, trying to calm himself. The night on this part of the road felt thick and heavy, the air slow and dense, every sound amplified. And faint crack of the station door made him turn, but there was no one there. Minutes passed. Sam felt the longer he waited, the more he lost touch with reality. Sometimes it seemed that he wasn't just waiting for a car, but had become part of this night scene, where darkness and lamplight created their own rhythm, separate from ordinary life. The truck sat silently, far down the road. A single star streaked across the sky, leaving a brief trail of light. Sam blinked, and at that moment he felt as if someone was watching him. Not from the counter, but from somewhere beyond it. His heart raced. He looked around, but the night remained empty. Only the station light flickered faintly against the darkness. Sam realized he couldn't look away. He was trapped in this feeling of waiting, both calm and unsettling at the same time. 1 more minute. 2 more. The car still hadn't arrived. And then Sam understood. His own impatience was making the night feel even heavier. He was here, in a stretch of time that felt endless, between light and darkness, between sound and silence. The silence of the gas station pressed down on him, and every sound, the rustle of trees, the crack of the roof, seemed too loud. Suddenly, Sam heard the crack again from the backyard, but this time it was louder. He tilted his head in surprise, but it sounded like it was coming from old metal barrels stacked in the corner of the station. His heartbeat quickened. He had tried several times to explain these noises at the fatigue or imagination, but now the silence felt heavy, and the crack was real. He jumped out of the cabin and carefully walked toward the barrels. Shining his flashlight on the metal walls, he saw nothing. Only old marks, scratches, and dust. Sam bent down to look under one of the barrels and saw a small box, worn but intact. Old paints showed through the rust and dust. A strange mix of fear and curiosity ran through him. He carefully lifted the lid. Inside was a notebook with a tattered cover. Flipping through the first page, he realized that the entires were made by another driver who had stopped here years ago. Routes were described, small notes about night roads, and at the end, strange words. Sometimes car comes on its own. Time here is different. Don't rush. Sam held the notebook in his hand, feeling that he now had at least some key to what was happening at the station, and although answers were still missing, the sense that this night was not random grew stronger. The car he was waiting for remained a mystery, but now he knew that someone before him had seen and experienced something similar. He looked back at the gas station again. The clerk sat in his seat, motionless, but his gaze had grown more intense, as if trying to hint at something. Sam put the notebook in the cabin. Now, the waiting had taken on a new meaning. He was no longer just waiting for a car. He had become part of the story the station had been keeping for years. His heart raced, and the night after the discovery felt even longer. Every minute dragged on, and he realized this gas station was not just a random stop, but a place where time and observation intertwined. Then, on the horizon, headlights appeared. The car moved slowly, almost carefully, as if it knew exactly where to stop. Sam's heartbeat quickened, a mix of anxiety and curiosity rushing through him. The car stopped a few meters from his truck. Sam stepped out, holding the notebook, and walked closer. The cabin was empty, only silence and the smell of fresh gasoline. The clerk in the gray shirt raised a hand and said to Sam, "Now you're a part of this night's story. The car comes only to those who can notice its secrets. The notebook you found proves that the night repeats itself, and every driver who stops here becomes part of this station." Sam opened the last page of the notebook. It read, "Whoever sees the car becomes part of the gas station's time. Time here is different. Observe." He smiled, feeling the weight of a responsibility. Sam understood. Now it was his turn to leave a mark for the next visitor. Carefully, he returned to the barrels in the backyard, placed the notebook back, and wrote a few lines of his own. Everything happened as described. The car comes to those who notice. Don't rush. Sam. He stepped back, took one last look at the station, and climbed into the truck. The road ahead was dark and empty again, but now his mind was calm. He knew he reminded an unseen observer of the cycle, the part of a story that had been going on for years. The gas station lights disappeared over the horizon. The car continued waiting for the next visitor. The notebook lay in its place, and behind the counter stood a man with black hair, wearing a dark blue shirt, with a worn badge that read, "Sam."